All right, everyone. Can everybody hear me loud and clear? Everybody should be able to hear me clearly. Just want to make sure. All right, perfect. We're going to go ahead and get started this evening. Appreciate everybody for being flexible today. Definitely was good to meet with a lot of people in person, so definitely appreciate that. Had a good time connecting with a ton of you guys here over the past few days. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And we're going to go ahead and just get right into this thing. A couple of tickers on the watch list this week. Some economic data. Of course, last week we're coming off the Federal Reserve interest rate decision. So in the beginning part of this week, you're going to see a lot of the Fed come out to kind of speak about, what they came out with last week. I appreciate that. Mr. Blunt. Appreciate you. Yesterday, it definitely was a packed house. So I appreciate everybody who did come out to not just Seattle, but also Brooklyn. Had a pleasure to meet a lot of people in Seattle and in Brooklyn. So it's action-packed past 72 hours. So definitely coming off a really nice high. So to touch on what I was saying, if you look on your economic calendar here on Market Watch, you're going to see pretty much lined up all day tomorrow. You're going to have Federal Reserve speakers coming out. And then as well at 9 a.m., you'll end it with Jerome Powell on Tuesday, the 23rd. And then you also have San Francisco Fed as well as the Chicago Fed. So pretty much majority of the Federal Reserve body is speaking at some point, sometime this week. And then as well, we're going to get existing home sales that comes out on the 25th at 10 a.m. Durable good orders. Of course, your initial jobless claims numbers that come out 8:30 every Thursday. Then also on Friday is the big day. You're going to get the PCE numbers, the inflation numbers at 8:30, and personal income, personal spending. And then you have the Richmond Fed president come out, and then consumer sentiment, the final reading. So big data week, speakers every single day. So a ton of reports coming out, and then boom, we'll be right there the first week of October following. We'll have the employment numbers coming out again. So really September went by super fast, went by quick, fast, in a hurry. So this is just kind of like the economic schedule for the week, just to kind of go over what we're looking at from that side. Now let's go into really just kind of recapping a little bit of last week, as well as taking a look at a few tickers. So one, and we actually touched on the ticker yesterday, but I want to look at Crowdstrike. So when you look at Crowdstrike, right now we're in a bull flag pattern. So a lot of the cybersecurity names, when I was doing some of my homework this weekend, and let me pull up Palo. I already have it pulled up here. So I have Palo Alto Network as well pulled up. So we're breaking above an all-time high on Palo Alto Network. Like I told you guys before, Palo Alto Network is one of those names that I want to go to this diagonal trend line series. So there's one level next that I want to set is right there at 210. So if you look at PANW, the past two times it's had major pullbacks was here in April, of course, and then the most recent one was when they purchased CyberArk for about $25 billion. So since they were able to go ahead and purchase CyberArk, we actually had the opportunity to be able to see the stock price initially drove down, but then obviously reality set in as far as the type of deal that it was for Palo Alto Network. It was a solid one. They got it for a good price. Cybersecurity to rally and recover. So if you look on CrowdStrike had an incredible day on Wednesday and on Thursday. So that 2-day run on Friday, it pretty much just traded sideways, but it's in a bull flag pattern here. If I go over the crowd here, pull up Palo, just got the 4-hour, same thing. So bounce right off of 196 here on Monday, shot back up. So looking at a break over 210 and CrowdStrike a break over 505. Bullish definitely there to the upside. So I definitely do like both of those names this week. I think they can kind of continue to have a little bit of a run. So that's just kind of the tip of the watch list right now. Futures for tonight, are a bit flat. So the futures market is flat here right now. So not really any critical moves happening at all. Pull up the QQQ on this side for now. Next name I want to talk about, and that's Apple. So if you were at the summit, we actually touched on this. I didn't get a chance to touch on Apple yesterday, just from a timing, but I want to speak about Apple because Apple's making a bull flag here on the hourly. But the next run in Apple to me is getting ready to start. The move for Apple to go to 4 trillion, I think, is getting ready to cook up. Now, on Friday was iPhone release day. So we're coming off of this, broke above 241. Want to go here on this daily time frame. Actually, let's go weekly. Want to go back to the past to take a look at previous price action here on Apple, right? So let's look at the last time that Apple was actually here. So we remember to be towards the right here on the 23rd of December. And Apple hit this 260 and then sharply pulled back, broke out a little bit in February, but still was never able to regain above 250. So now where Apple sits at right now is right here at this 245 area. We need to see Apple break above 250 to go test the all-time high. I think there's a major opportunity here for Apple to do that. Now, one thing that I did discuss, and I want to go through it again just to kind of give an update because we hadn't really zeroed in on this since maybe post AVGO's earnings. But Broadcom is now the fourth ranked ticker as far as asset allocation in the NASDAQ. You also have, of course, NVIDIA at number one, but Apple is less than 8%. In a long time since we've seen Apple less than 8% asset allocation here. Microsoft is right here at about 8.29%. Amazon is right here at 5%. So they've fallen as far as asset allocation. Some of that went to Broadcom and NVIDIA, so they've given up some market share there. So if I'm looking here, with Apple right here at 245, I definitely want to just show this, like I said, show this bull flag pattern. It's definitely very possible that Apple goes and at least can test 250, whether it breaks or not. We'll just have to see at that time. But I do think here at Apple, we have a strong chance of actually making it to that 250 point. What it does after that will really be incumbent upon the rest of the market. So that's really my thoughts on Apple. High probability setup there to take that move to 250. And that's kind of my thoughts on it right now. Next ticker that we're going to go over, I want to discuss Uber, guys. So I really want us to watch Uber very, 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 very closely. I know a lot of people who are in Uber contracts for some people for January 2026, some people for June 2026. So it's getting close here on Uber where if you're in those January contracts, obviously time is ticking. We're here, it is September, end of September. Next week is October, like there. So we haven't really gotten the move that we thought we would get at this point in time, right? We hadn't gotten the move on Uber, right? It hasn't even gotten above $100. So we're just waiting. Like on Friday, that was Friday. So Friday was a good day. Obviously, was up about 4%. But it seems as if every time Uber gets a little bit of momentum, you think it's going to start to break out, it gets sold off a little bit. It actually dropped because we're still here where it's at, but it just hasn't had that proper volume. So to me, looking at it now, I would just say with Uber on this break, if we don't break above 100 this time, I think it's good to just close the position out. Let's not especially if you're talking about January options, because we don't want to get to the point where the theta decay is really starting to eat at it more and more as just time goes on. So that's really my biggest thing with Uber. So just updates wise, pricing. So those are my thoughts. Next ticker that's made the watch list is not TT, but TTD. So TTD, let's talk about TTD this week. And just in general, you may have seen me discuss TTD over the past couple of weeks. It's so far held here at $41 a share. So I'm going to go to making, we have a DB pattern, a double bottom pattern here on the weekly time frame. So TTD, the first bottom being here from April 14th, the second bottom being the candle from last week. So with this double bottom pattern, TTD is obviously a fairly cheap ticker compared to maybe some of the other names that we usually discuss and speak about. So with that being said, I like where it does. I like where it's sitting at right now. I think it's in a pretty fair spot. TTD, trade desk, for those that may be new here and don't know what the trade desk actually is. TTD is a company we've tracked for a long period of time. If we go to this monthly time frame, you'll notice that here on TTD, ended up making a move all the way up here to about 141. And now, what's the significance of this $41 level? Well, let's speak to it. We talk about these macro level time frames, and I want to talk about price behavior real quick. So if you look, this is back in June, May. You also have November, December, and February of 2023. Go back to 2022 and that early 2023 point. This level has really, past 3 years has really stand to be a significant support that TTT has not gotten below. So what I'm saying is high probability based upon previous price action. I anticipate that I don't expect that TTD is going to actually drop and break below this 41. If it does, then I think it's going to go to 32, right? Just realistically. But my stop point would be a break below 41, which should take you out of this position. But because of where it's positioned and based upon what it's done previously, it gives me a bit of confidence to say, you know what? I can feel comfortable if I say, hey, guys, look at catching a position on TTD. Obviously, the stock is sold off from, down another 50% from where it was at about 2 months ago. I think it's a good entry point. And once again, going off a previous price action, this level, liquidity has been at these areas consistently for the past 3 years. So nothing about this tells me that it's going to change right now. So that's my reasoning for TTD. My suggestion as far as like strike pricing wise and expiration dates, if you look on your options chain, and I'll post it here in a second right now. If you look on your options chain, I would suggest on TTD, if you're looking TTD, let's go. You look at the trade desk. I would stress to go. I would say let's go to like January at least. It gives you, give some time. We know TTD isn't necessarily the quickest mover. You do have some contracts that are available for a little earlier, December. I think November may be a little bit too quick, but it could happen. I would say, really December and further would give you probably ideal time. They do have some contracts for March. Like if you're looking at the January 2026 call, there's only a difference of $100 between January and March. So for an extra $100, you can get a $40 call in March for about $1,000. It's not really bad, compared to some of the other positions. So $1,000 gets you in March contracts, $40 call. So that's a fair price, in my opinion, a pretty fair price that can get you. So $40 calls, or you're looking, if you want to look at January, January is going to get you around like 9-10. So like I said, it's just about $100 difference, a little over $100. Not bad pricing at all. So those are my thoughts when it pertains to specifically this, this stop. So TTD, when you look at that, you can go ahead, in my opinion, $40 call, 1080. And there we go. January contracts, 9-10. So I think you'd be better off going for the March. Gives you 2 months of extra time. Not bad, not a bad option. As far as target wise, let's speak to, what is our targets? Where would we be looking to close? I think $55 would be enough. 55 would be clearly plain as day would be enough. I think that we can get TTD to go higher realistically. I think we could get it to go to 65, but I don't know if in that time frame that would happen. And then underneath $41, I would cut the position. So underneath 41 would be pretty much my stop point, because underneath there, I think that the stock can drop to $32, right? But it's just, from the standpoint of looking at it here, I think it's a high probability this thing bounces and, reverses here at this level. So that's my thoughts on TTD at this time. It's just a full scope of the position and understanding exactly the time frame analysis, understanding the macro levels, and why specifically we looked at the stock in that manner, just so it makes pretty much clear, plain sense to you as to why we look at it that way. All right. So next stock, breakout wise, I want to speak about SoFi, please. So SoFi Technologies. A lot of analysts very bullish on this name, so sometimes that can, sway me. But I want to speak about SoFi here. I want everyone to go to the monthly first. And I want you to have any lines on it. I want you to strictly just go to the monthly first on the monthly time frame. And the reason why I want to discuss SoFi is because of one, where it's at. And honestly, I believe that SoFi is going to go to $35 and $40. I think it has that momentum. Very similar setup to if you were to pull up, we'll just do it. No ifs, ands, buts about it. QQQ pretty much has knocking on the door at $600. Crazy times. But it reminds me a lot of, I'll be honest with you, it reminds me a lot of Palantir. Like when I look on this monthly time frame, all right, doesn't this remind you a lot of Palantir? Am I the only one who sees this on the monthly, Palantir and SoFi? Me having it side by side together? Does this remind you guys? Palantir and SoFi sitting here on the monthly. Everybody see that? Left and right. SoFi on the left, Palantir on the right. And that's Palantir before its breakout. All right. So I'm not saying that SoFi goes $100 something. What I'm saying is that very easily this momentum can very well continue in a strong place. I don't think SoFi is done at all. Obviously, there's more rate cuts that are getting ready to come in and happen over the next year. So I think SoFi will be in a good position to cap business-wise. And so I like this name a lot. I think we're going to see this name go on a run even more. And I think the next stop is $35 and $45. So obviously it hasn't been there at all yet, but it's just showing you this time frame. After SoFi, I want to show you this. We'll keep Palantir up for now. But I want you guys to go look at Carvana. Now I want you guys to notice something here. As I switch from SoFi to Carvana, you really didn't see much time frame difference, right? You don't really see much difference in this chart. And realistically, obviously, you saw the massive drawdown on Carvana sold off heavy in this year, 2021, 2022. But I want to speak about Carvana because let me go single screen real quick here. And the reason why I want to speak about it, let me knock it down to right here now. So we hit 413. I think that Carvana is going to make a move into the $400 range. So CVNA has obviously been hot. Carvana's actually turned themselves around business-wise. So from a trading perspective, I look at this name and I say Carvana 400 plus, likely to break this 413 even. So I expect it to go on a run here sooner or later. I'm expecting it to go on a run. So I like this setup in a great way. I expect Carvana to continue to get rotated into, and I think we're going to take that next move upward on this name at this time. All right. So that's my thoughts on Carvana. You'll see me publish a couple more things on them, but I want to get this is a 5-star ticker. So anytime we talk about 5-star tickers, this is tickers with high confidence. And one of our 5-star tickers is Shopify. Now with Shop, the reason why Shop made the 5-star ticker list, and it probably will be on a 5-star ticker list, I think, for not just this week, but also the next week as well, is Shop is in a position now where I'm expecting this to smash through this 158 and attempt to go push higher over 164. Now, Shopify reports earnings, still some time left until they report. They don't report again, so actually still hasn't been, but it should be the end of October or the first week of November. So the end of October or the first week of November. And so what I'll see is with Shopify, I also am into with the ARK, right? So you guys know how we feel about the ARK around here. I know there were some Tesla conversations about TSLA. We'll see what Tesla is looking like. I've seen a photo surface. I hadn't really deep dived into it yet. You guys probably seen more about it than me. I hadn't really been looking at that today. But let's go to the ARK because the ARK is right here at about 85. And I want to go to, obviously, of course, if we're talking Shopify, Shopify is obviously in this bad boy. We have Tesla, Coinbase, Roblox, Tempest AI, the Hood, Robinhood, new all-time high. Palantir, did what we expected to do. Palantir was a 5-star ticker last week, broke and hit the 180 target, so perfect on that run. But let's discuss here on ticker Shop, and also as we look at Shopify, let's talk about this ARK ETF. I'm gonna pull the ARK on the right side of the screen. So Palantir, thank you for your time. We need ARKK. So let's go weekly. There we go. All right. So we're getting back to this point here on the ARK ETF where we're getting back to levels we haven't been at in a long time. We're talking about getting back to the ARK here when the fall started to happen, the drop levels. All right. So actually, I want to pull up ARK on this side. And I'll leave it over there. So let's just chart it better here. So $89 is that next. Now on Friday, it broke above 84.31. Now let's talk about, of course, what we can see. Now, if you notice this number, this asset allocation number on Tesla in the ARK has jumped from what? If you pay attention to it closely, you would know that the asset allocation number jumped from 10% to 12%. And Roku's actually allocation number has dropped. How Roku's in the top 3, I still am a bit ticked, more than a bit. I'm very ticked off about that because I think Roku should actually not even be anywhere in the top 10. Different conversation for a different day. But that's the one thing that I just look at. I'm just like, why is that here? But looking here, 10% to 12%. So this asset is looking like, once again, Kathy Woods, maybe she knows something. With the ARK ETF, what's the path to $100, right? We're here at $85. What's the path? Obviously, Shopify can help. Robinhood's done its part. Palantir, they've done their parts. Roblox done its part. Coinbase has done some, but Coinbase could do more, right? Coinbase could do more. Coinbase could go back above 400. But the tools that I think hold the keys to whether or not the ARK can actually make it to, above 90 and start to push to 100, I think it's 2 stocks, and they account for 17% of the ETF, one being Tesla and one being Shopify. Shopify is obviously providing, of course, the other names like Palantir going to 200 without obviously help too. But I think Shopify and Tesla, both out of these top 10 tickers here, in this ETF, I think are poised for a breakout, right? When you look at Tesla from a technical perspective, ticker TSLA, all that's stopping Tesla now is over 400. Of course, we hit that milestone, so that's good. I know people are feeling good about it and all that good stuff. But what we need to do is we need to get above this 437 level. The reason why I want to show this is if we can get above 437, I want to go here pull this over to the side of the chart. And I want to zoom in and show you some of the previous price action from last year. So this 437 was that same point here in January that we rejected at. So buyers really need to take out all of the sellers at that specific level. If that can happen, I think Tesla is going to go or run back to at least testing the all-time high. So 437 is so pivotal, guys. I want you to put that alert down on Tesla, 437. If that level breaks, I think we're going to see a $20 to $30 day after that. You guys know how this stock moves, right? We just seen how Crowdstrike, when it comes to those stocks that have a huge amount of momentum trading behind it, these names can move fast. And so it's important to have these key levels identified up front. So you know that if a level is breaking and it breaks with that volume, how it can actually just go on a. So I definitely wanted to stress this name, a lot this week. It just, just going forward, especially with the ARK ETF. I think the ARK goes above 90 and gets to 95. I do think that happens. The ARK ETF has been on fire. I think we were a little bit iffy when the ARK was at 70, 78, saying, could this, we was thinking maybe that could have been the top, but then obviously Tesla showed us that it has some gas in the tank and kind of lit the thing on fire. But that's it. Obviously, names like Robinhood and Palantir and those other names that have already provided so much, I can't expect Roblox to go 20% from here. I can't really expect some of those other names to really make a move, but I can expect that Shopify can give us a bit of a gas, give us some push. And I would like to see that from that name, Shopify. Keep that, very, very, very careful and closely on you. Keep your eyes on it. This is one that I think has a really strong pattern, potentially able to break out that 158. So if you missed the level on Shop, right, Shopify as it's breaking over that 158, and we come here and we just auto fit my data to the screen, right? That 158.34, we want to see Shop get above that level. I know post earnings, they had a bit of a run and it kind of made a move on us. And we had a nice little small trade to the downside, nothing too crazy. But Shop needs above 158. And as it does that, has a chance to push up higher. So that's my thoughts with ticker Shopify. Next ticker on the list is not necessarily an options trade, but it is an accumulation. BOIL, like I said, I would continue to keep discussing BOIL. I would not stop speaking about it. BOIL at this $30. Just kind of go back to July and August and September. You just take a look. BOIL right now is giving you an opportunity to where I think BOIL may drop to maybe honestly about $20 to $25 range, right? I think it has a little bit more room to drop. But I think you want to be buying BOIL with some of these profits that you're getting. For my people, a lot of people been hitting nice off these options as of recently. And I think BOIL is a good defensive play. Natural gas, 3x levered ETF. Once again, you shouldn't get too wrapped up in this name, but the reason why I'm mentioning it is don't, picking up, hey, you get a little bit of profit, 5 to 10 shares, pick up a little bit of BOIL, add that to your list of things that, okay, you got some profits on the table, take some of your profits and rotate a little bit of it. You don't need to get wrapped up in a huge way. I think you still need to limit your exposed name. You don't need to get wrapped up in it heavy, right? So listen to me carefully. But this is a name that we still think, hey, as these next months come on, if natural gas from a seasonality perspective plays out, we've seen this thing run, numerous of times where it gets to these $30 levels, $40 and $20 levels, and we see it kind of rally and rotate. So this is part of those leverage ETFs that it's about where you're buying. Now, nat gas has been on the fall since March of this year. Eventually, the bottom will set in, and we'll see a nice pop and explosion, and then you just sell and take your money. So once again, you do not want to get wrapped up in this name too heavy, but you do want to have some light exposure. So this is one that you need to have some light exposure into. Once again, don't get wrapped up heavy, and you you get caught up in this name and you're over leveraged. That's not what this name is for. This is a nice defensive mechanism play. Especially like Boyle is one that tends to be up if the market is dropping realistically, right? So this is a nice defensive play. Large in part, the reason why I don't think you've seen Boyle bottom is because the market is still making an all-time high realistically. So that's why I don't think, unless the market really stalls out, I don't think Boyle is going to boil, right? Funny enough, I don't think it'll boil. So this is, once again, a nice defensive mechanism play for the market. If the market gets a little bit risk off feeling and wants to sell off, you're going to see Boyle. Just pay attention. The next red day that comes, I want you to look at Boyle. I would suspect that you'll have a 2.5 to 5% move on Boyle on the next NASDAQ 2% down day. That down on your notes, and we'll check back on that one. So those are my thoughts just as far as like full scope. Why are we paying attention to Boyle, and why should it be one that you kind of grab and play very once again in a controlled risk environment type way. So that's the main reason why I said that for Boyle. All right. So let's keep this going. So we expect it, just to be clear about it, we expect it probably to fall to about $20 to $25 realistically. $20 to $25. We expect it to trickle down a bit more. So for my people that do cash secure puts, maybe that's an option for you if you're looking to do that. If not, like I said, just nibble at it a little bit and just have a defensive play. Next ticker. We saw what I haven't covered it yet, but I know you guys saw what OKLO did. That was absolutely monstrous. OKLO went ridiculous. Shorts got blasted out of OKLO on Friday. OKLO was up 30% on Friday. Right, basically 30% on Friday. OKLO was up. So they increased their market cap, right? OKLO is now a $20 billion market cap company. So they are still, obviously they're still a growing company. Broke over $100, but closed right there at about 20 billion. Now I want to speak to hims and hers. So I'm not saying that they're going to do what OKLO did, but I want to speak about it because I think that we're going to get a little bit of risk on from hims and hers, right? So I want to discuss this because I'm looking at hims and hers over the past week. And I just sat back and watched. I like the way that it bounced here at $40. That was really good. We had some puts and we took profits right there at 40. Obviously never broke down. We talk about price behavior and levels to pay attention to. You see here back in June, same levels where the money lied, right? The money was laying right there at those levels. Now I'm speaking about hims because realistically over the past 4 months since May here to September, past 4 months, we haven't really seen what happened from hims and hers, right? If I go out here to this weekly time frame, it's really been nothing. Nothing has really materialized. But I think that we're going to see an explosion from hims and hers. I don't think it'll be this week. I want to be clear on that. I don't think it's this week. But I think within the next 2 months, we're going to get in. I think we look at hims and hers now, we see it at 57, but we're going to look up and there's going to be a day where hims and hers goes on like a 10. I don't think they do what OKLO did, but I think they go on a 10 to 15% run in a day. And what I would point out too is if you're looking at hims and hers, some people are going to ask, okay, one, how do I know that? That's going to be one of the questions that is asked, right? Of course, the bounce off of 40 was really solid. But when we see that this momentum is not really pushing us anywhere downward nor higher, we start to complete, right, over a period of time. We start to now trade here once again side by side. If you look here on a monthly time frame, this $40 level is not, they're not breaking that right now. Over 67 as momentum pushes back up. The momentum break on hims and hers will be the reason as to why this ticker actually break out. So let's talk about some of the share statistics on this name real quick. Let's look underneath and kind of dive in and see exactly, okay, what do we have here? Now, this is the piece that I was discussing with OKLO yesterday, but it's the same. It's not the same. It's a bit different. It's more than a bit. It's worse. And it's in a good way, right? Because this is like the perfect formula. Now, I want to speak to why is it the perfect formula? Now, you'll see some of the top gainers here. Obviously, a lot of these top gainers, up 22% and 26%. But I always like to speak about the how. So with hims and hers, a lot of these shares outstanding, which you only have 217 million. So this is a very small float size. Of that, 33% of the shares outstanding are being held short, which is 64 million out of the 217 million. So a lot of those shares are actually currently being held short. So all it takes, realistically, all this thing takes is for hims and hers to get a nice sizable momentum. Something could change quarterly earnings wise. Something, I would really be paying attention to. There's not a lot of debt here. Cash to debt looks pretty good. So this isn't a bad business. It's actually profitable as well too. So there's a lot of bets against hims and hers right now. They're taking 33% of the shares outstanding being shorted. This is a recipe for when the Wall Street bet boys and the Reddit boys and all of that good, all them boys get, actually caught up on this. They're going to be taking a look and they're going to pump the hell out of this thing. I just want to make this now. Hims and hers is going to get pumped. And as it squeezes over $67 and $72, you're going to be looking at this stock going to 80, 90 bucks. Now, that probably will be next year. That's my thoughts on hims and hers. Short squeeze action. So I think we're going to see a huge, huge move on hims and hers. 33%. Man, it's been trading sideways like this for some time. Trust me, it's coming. It is coming. So when the market tends to get back to these all-time highs, and if you notice, no shot in NVIDIA here, but NVIDIA is a little stalled. It's not breaking this over this 180. A lot of your top names, yes, they're still making some of the names have made some new highs, but it's been a bit tougher, right? Microsoft is, still hanging in hundreds, which is fine. So they're going to go look to find yield in, honestly, names that sit within some names within the Russell 2000, some of the lower tier NASDAQ names. They're looking to squeeze those names to the upside. That's why you kind of see quantum computing as well starting to run again, right? So you are seeing quantum computing, move to the upside. Ticker NEBIS, NBIS, NEBIS Group, which used to be Yandex. We covered them. They're a $100 company now. Past 6 months up 260%. Past month, NEBIS is up 47%. Past month alone. So a lot of spending is increasing in those parts of the market, which is what's kind of turning those names to the upside. And so I think there's a clear-cut pathway for those stocks to just kind of continue to move upward in a nice way. So now, next name that I want to discuss and speak about is a name that we actually talked about last week, but I've spoken about the name numerous of times. But I want to show you guys what I'm expecting and anticipating next on this specific name as we head into the latter part of the year. And that is ticker ASML. Now, of course, ASML has a big price tag on it, from a stock perspective, but we always look for obviously catching those alternatives. So ASMG was one of the main ways that I spoke about getting exposure into ASML, right? ASMG is right here at about $20. And ASML is about to go on this $1,000 campaign run. So I want to speak to it again. ASML, The tide has shifted upwards since the beginning of September. The stock is up $200 alone. You guys know what we've covered ASML as far as accumulating shares of ASMG. So shout out to those that have been able to. But I want to speak to this breakover 945. Guys, when I tell you that ASML, as this stock breaks over $945, I'm telling you, it's going to 1,000 very, very quickly and fast. It will not waste time. ASML is a low float stock. This is how it's even $1,000 in the first place. This is a name that's been building some momentum here for some time. Now, as I mentioned ASML, I want to bring up another name. Now, this name is not within the same sector as ASML, but it's a similar name as far as what ASML just did. And I don't want you, right, to really, miss what I'm saying, because I find it that a lot of times we'll discuss things and then we see certain things happen and then we say, well, man, I wish I caught it. But when we discussed it like 5, 10, 15, 20 times, right? And the ticker is Eli Lilly and Company, ticker LLY. Somebody saying, why is he bringing up LLY with ASML? And there's a method to why I did this. There's a method, and I want to explain this as to why I'm about to put both of these tickers side by side, right? So now when you look here on this name, right, you see an opportunity for us to actually break up here to back to the $800 level. So I stress this, like I'm really want to stress this with LOY, and I'm bringing ASML to the fold, right? You have to know when you are taking a look at this name that ASML is a proven business model with a fair valuation, very similar to LLY. So a lot of people look at Eli Lilly and Company and say the same thing. The cost, right, of what it actually takes to actually get involved. You have to make sure when you look at this name, Eli Lilly is one that you can catch as well. And we talk about these low floater names, and when they trade sideways, like everyone was asking, okay, what's up with LLY? People were saying they were asking with ASML. ASML was just a stock that was just trading sideways. It was a bit weaker. So the thing is, you have the ability to get exposed to Eli Lilly and Company as well through ELIL, right? Ticker ELIL, right? ELIL. So this is your bullish 2X ETF. Now, of course, ELIL here in the beginning of August, it was at 11. Relatively, this is a new, at its peak point here in April, you're at $27. Currently, right now, you go back to April of this year here on this name. Eli Lilly was right there at about almost $900 a share. So you could get exposure into Eli Lilly and Company via the ETF ELIL, ticker ELIL. So what I definitely wanted to say is when I look here, I'm noticing a couple of main things. And now I see you have this 2X levered ETF that you can actually catch by Lilly and Company. So I don't want anyone to miss these moves, right? So ASMG, some people are going to ask, would I recommend it here? No, I wouldn't recommend ASMG to buy this name right now. Obviously, trading ASML is a bit tougher, right? Just even a volume perspective on ASML contracts is just crazy, just in general. So ASMG was the best bet. Now, the answer to the question is, should I buy ASMG? No, you shouldn't. At this point, for my people that took advantage, you should be selling it, offloading it, getting ready for it to hit $25, etc. When it comes to Eli Lilly and Company, this is why I stress Eli Lilly and Company. So let's go back to ELIL. What I want you to set some alerts for ELIL, $11 and $13. let's say, you get an opportunity for healthcare to actually pull back, right? So Eli Lilly, 11 and $12, 11 and $13. I want you to set those alerts, right? For ELO. Now, let's say someone says, you know what, L, I'm willing to take the opportunity here for Eli Lilly at this time. I would say it's not as high risk. If you were buying ASMG, I would say you just don't need to do it. But with Eli Lilly and Company, it hasn't ran back up. But I'm telling you, I've said before that I think healthcare, the rundown to the downside in healthcare, then that to me presents a nice buying opportunity. I always look for the sector's opportunity. You try to find, we don't always want to just rave about. That's why I appreciate it, about, conversations I had. It's like, once again, no disrespect to NVIDIA, but they've done so much. I think sometimes we get googly eyed with the names that have already made these major moves, and they're going to continue to produce and prove and show why they deserve the attention that they got. But there's a lot of areas of the market where there's still an immense amount of opportunity, but sometimes we just overlook these places because we focus on just too much of what's also running. And, I just really consider, when I'm looking at a couple of stocks across the board that I look at, and I think once again, we get caught up in the name times that have already ran, and we may be missing some of the easy next opportunities. The ones that's just sitting right in our face that we know we should probably be taking, but we get caught up in the names that have already been running, and we end up becoming somebody else's exit liquidity. Names at certain tops, and it's like, all right, we got to really start to zero in and say, okay, especially in a market that's super top heavy, right? Like, how much gas in the tank does a lot of these names have? They're not just going to keep shooting straight up, right? The names that have already led us up to the upside, the names that we continue, that we've kind of continued to just keep touching on and speaking about. So that's my thoughts on those specific stocks. Eli Lilly, ASMG, for ASML, just giving you guys those updates there as far as what makes a ton of sense and ways to really look at. That was my thought process, at this time. You have a couple other names that I want to make mention to, that I think have, more opportunities to blow. The next name that I want you guys to actually pull up is, 1 second, just make sure that this is, my note is right on this name. Yes, it is. All right, perfect. So next ticker I want you to pull up is Alibaba. So this break over 170 is what's going to happen, and we'll do it. So the break over $170. I want you guys to look at Alibaba as we break over 170. So this next test will be up to about $182. So we have a strong move on Alibaba over 170 to about 182. Now, when it comes to Alibaba, this is a name that primarily moves what? During the after hours session. This is a huge intraday mover. It doesn't move during the day for the most part. Like, more times than not, a lot of the moves that we see is when we wake up around 4 a.m. and the Chinese market is, doing what it's doing. What we actually end up seeing is here, a major move out to the upside, and price, will jump and be up like $8 to $10 in the morning. So it's primarily a name that moves after hours. So you really have to honestly be in the position swing trade wise in order to really catch it. And it's sometimes honestly hard to time. Given Tuesday and the Asian markets open up, and the next thing you know, Alibaba's up $8 to $10. The trend is really set in here with Alibaba as of recently. When we first talked about the position, it was back at $120. right? So $120, we actually saw a nice move on this name to the upside. So I like it a ton. I think we have a amazing move here on a continuous side. I think we're going to shoot up all the way to about, I would say, about $182. If you're thinking about this name, the best way to swing this name would be to have at least a January contract. I think November would just be a bit too quick. It could happen. Honestly, I expect this to be sooner, but sometimes you just never know. I think January would be the best bet. And if you notice, my tone is really flipped a lot to January, because there may be a point in October where you get a little bit of sideways action before the next move upward, right? You get a little bit of sideways action before that next move. And so I think that's the main reason why I suggest to go out that far. This 170, once again, that's that level that Baba needs to break above next here in order to take that move. But I think it's in a good position, in a good spot now, coming off of last week where it made a high over there, 166, 167, pull back a little bit. I think the pullback is just honestly to go higher on ticker Baba. So those are my thoughts on Alibaba at this time, ladies and gentlemen. So make sure you guys have those notes down on that name, so you're in good position to capitalize off of it. So those are my total total everything just on that updates on that ticker and just the way that we see it as of right now. Now let's we covered hims and hers. We went through a lot of ASML. We went through a lot of the tickers that I want to discuss tonight. But we do have a ticker that reports earnings this week, and that's ticker Micron Technologies, ticker MU. So Micron, I call Micron, this is one that it's crazy because Micron, if you sat AMD and Micron next to each other, it'd be hard to argue for AMD. Just off the fundamentals perspective, we just went fundamentals. It'd be hard to argue for AMD, right? Like AMD gets a ton of love, and trust me, I think everyone knows how I feel about AMD here, but I just always keep it. I've always told you that MU is the sleeper in this space. Like MU doesn't get the love, and I'm excited to hear from them. I definitely really want to stress here. With MU, this is the opportunity. Like that, this the bright lights right now is on MU. You got the momentum going into earnings, right? Like investors that pushed you up, went on a hell of a run. This is your opportunity to decide. This is MU's opportunity to decide whether they can get to 200. I don't believe they go to 200 off the earnings report, but the momentum that they can carry and push will determine how far they can go. Because if for a bull case perspective, which I've said this previously, I've been a big bull when it came to MU. I screamed this name when it was down at $80, $75. It was there on the document. This is a name that you need, and it'll be undervalued. And that's exactly where it went. And we see where MU is at now. Now, AMD, everyone knows how I feel about it. AMD still has more work to do profitability on a consistent basis wise. When it comes to MU has stepped up to the plate, and in the past 8 quarters has really been able to deliver at a high efficiency level. Like there's nothing that you could really say bad about MU from a fundamental perspective. Like they look the part and they've been the part. I just think that AMD, and this isn't just to single them out, and the other names in the space, right, maybe have just overshadowed what we've seen from MU, right? It's kind of just overshadowed this, just in general. But a quarterly earnings growth of 467% is nothing to sneeze at. And this is why I think MU's primed. I can't imagine that they're gonna. I don't expect a major move each way. Yeah, I'll be surprised, honestly. If MU's up, 20 points after hours, I would be surprised. Never say never. If it's down $20, I'd be surprised that way too. But I just want to really stress that MU is still, even after this run, how many stocks can double in value, but still maintain a P to E of less than 30, right? Right here at 29. There's not many that could go and double right now and still, somewhat be fairly valued. So I think when it comes to this name, MU with the right earnings report, they start their $200 campaign. Once again, it won't happen overnight. I understand we've seen some pretty big moves, but I think this is a name that's been a sleeper, hasn't gotten its just due. It's done an amazing job. Obviously, AVGO, NVIDIA, they've overshadowed this, but MU has been the dark horse, and I just want to give them their flowers. We're going to be tapped in. I'm going to really be listening to their earnings call this week on Tuesday. And this is not necessarily or anything recommended because I'm not playing MU's earnings. So I just want to make that clear. If you do so, that's at your own risk. But yeah, as far as MU, there's no recommendation to play earnings. Sit back and let this one play out. And yeah, let's those are my thoughts just overall on the ticker. But I'm very, very bullish, of course, long term. I think 200 and above is where it's going to be at. So those are my thoughts on it. Next ticker to discuss is ticker Unity Software. All right, so with Unity, guys, Unity is right here knocking at the door, right here at about knocking at 4709. Get ready because I think we see Unity go next level. What do I mean by next level? $50 is on the way. After 50, we are going to see an explosion up to 58 bucks. So Unity Software ticker U. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. With Unity, we stressed on Unity that we want you guys to look at Unity to break out above. I want you guys to watch Unity getting above that specific point and level, above 50. Being in January and further contracts on U. Unity's been a great position for us this year. We've really done a great job of covering U, and it's not done yet. So Unity, we believe, has a ton more gas in the tank. A break over 50 is going to move us up to $58. So Unity Software, guys, please make sure that is on your list of tickers. We're expecting a move up, so we like you. So Unity there. So that's the most. I mean, we have bank earnings which should come up in the next 3 weeks. So we'll get an opportunity to hear from the banking sector and the banking stocks here. We talked about Apple and that bull flag pattern taking a move to 250. Uber, once again, Uber is right there on the cusp of breaking $100. Of course, we had a Lyft position. Talked about Lyft back at 15, 16 bucks. And Lyft is breaking out of the accumulation phase. So Uber and Lyft will be on our top to watch list. Uber, we've had a target of 110. And we're looking and saying, hey, if you're in those January contracts, time's been ticking. So we're waiting on that TTD double bottom pattern on TTD at this time. So we're looking at that on double bottom on TTD. Speaking of DBs, can't talk DBs unless because I got to remember that some people wasn't here yesterday. So it's all good. We're going to make sure you guys get the right information. Let's check on, can we check on the Giants, please? I know I made a joke. Let's see what's going on there. Quick intermission. 6-0. Oh, but at the Kansas City 18, almost halftime. So we're going to keep this train rolling. Looks like a little bit of a boring game. I want to give a special shout out to everybody that decided to be here tonight. I know some people, I'm sure I have everyone on mute, so I'm sure the game is on. I'm sure people got the game on, and that's fine. But I definitely want to give you guys your flowers for being here and doing both. We can have Sunday Night Football. Those on the field, they've already gotten their checks. We trying to make sure we get our checks. So I do appreciate everybody being on and being flexible tonight. Now, when I spoke about DBs, I want you guys to look at Adobe, right? And we spoke on Adobe yesterday. I was asked by good brother Andrew. I'm not sure if he's on the Zoom tonight, but I had the opportunity to meet Andrew in person yesterday. Andrew's always pretty much on the Zooms and just tapped in here. So I want to give him his flowers in front of everybody on his level of consistency since he came into the program. And he asked me, he said, can you really just explain it and go through a double bottom? So immediately, once again, just by paying attention to technicals and into the charts, I had been looking at Adobe pretty much all week on this weekly time frame and daily. And I said to myself, right, Adobe has this double bottom here on this weekly time frame. And so Adobe, this is a classic pattern. Earnings came out and really nothing happened off the earnings report. No major move. But now sitting here looking at Adobe, this is a nice prime example of a stock that, to me, let's take a look at the fundamentals, just like we did on Micron. So Adobe's down here in the $300 range. It's sitting in a really nice territory. Stock price obviously has came down, lost about 100 billion in market cap since last year. So 100 billion has been wiped in market cap off the table. So this is a stock with a P to E ratio of about 22. So we dropped from about 51 to 22. So Adobe's at a point where, from a fundamental perspective, I just want to go here to this monthly and show you, I don't really see Adobe going much for. I'll just say that. And if it was, it would have to get below about 325 and to get to around 273. But you look back, I mean, it hasn't been at 275 since October of 2022, right? So I see the Giants just scored a touchdown. I was talking a little mess about them earlier. Shout out to all the Giants fans. Looks like Scatterbo just scored, right? Shout out to all the Giants fans that's on here. I'm just trolling y'all a little bit. Let's see what y'all can do. And so when you look at Adobe, right, this 275, if we can, that would be like, from a long-term investing perspective, takeaway trading, that would be like a perfect spot to buy Adobe, right? Now, when we speak about trading here now, this DB pattern, I think, will really hold up. Like I said, at 325 would be very pivotal. We're at 365, but I like for Adobe to start reversing backwards. I really like Adobe to start reversing back upwards, have a double bottom on this time frame. So this is a good spot for Adobe. Really, 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 really good spot on Adobe right now. Went through pretty much all the tickers that I wanted to go through. Let's get some questions. Questions, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get some questions in here. We'll have some time for questions. Yeah. Yeah, only 5-star right now is really Shopify. Thoughts on OKLO? We'll get Boeing, and let's get NVO. Yep. So we covered Unity already. We actually did that about 2 tickers ago. So let's get NVO. So we're looking for Unity to get above just 47. With NVO, we're in March contracts. So we're looking to catch this falling wedge breakout, right? So we're in the March cons for this specific name. So we're in the March contracts once again for this stock right now. So we're in the March contracts. So those are my thoughts on this specific stock at this time. March contracts on NVO. Business model is gotten obviously beaten up from a fundamental perspective. To me, the price is right. That's why I think you saw the stock price bounce in them 40s. You also have NVOX. So you also have NVOX, which you can get exposed for about $4 on NVO. $4 for a 2x levered ETF. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't take nothing away from this call tonight, I need you to go to see NVOX. I need you to go grab a few hundred shares. NVOX. 2x levered of the ETF of NVO. $4. We expect NVOX to go anywhere in between $10 to $12. I'll get Microsoft in a second here. I got you on that. Thank you for that. But NVOX, listen, $4, please. Just like I beg people to buy socks, I'm going to beg people to buy this one. Please, 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 please get this. NVOX, $4 a share. NVO, big falling wedge pattern. We even get NVO just to go back to 75. Let's not even say it goes back to 86 or 90. You're going to make something nice, sizable off of that name, right? That's going to be, here right now, that'd be a 25% move, right? 25% is $15, right? So that means you can make 50% off NVOX if it goes to $75 just off shares alone. So just do that math. Once again, a 2x lever ETF. If you divide 60 by 4, what does that give you? 15, right? So NVOX, 25%. We're talking about a 25% move in NVO, which would give you a 50% move in NVOX. $4. That's all we're really looking for if we're talking options, right? That was the target on the options, right? So this is what I'm saying with NVO. And that's my thoughts there. That's my thoughts. Tesla over 437 this week will run. So lots of questions came in about Tesla in my DMs and text messages on this call. So Tesla over 437 this week will run. That's the only way it's running this week. So it has to break through that 437. 437. There was a question as far as with ticker BA, so let me give that to you. Right now, we're right here at about 215. I think it was Miss Michelle Reed who asked about it. With ticker BA, we actually have a bear flag pattern that's here on ticker Boeing. So on ticker BA, a bear flag pattern, unfortunately, right now. So if we get BA to break a little bit further, I think we could honestly drop to 209 and 204. So it looks like BA is getting rotated out of right now. So on ticker BA, I anticipate that if we start to continue to hold below 215, we're going to see Boeing come down to 209 and 204. So those are my thoughts on ticker BA. Yep. How do I feel about open? Let's get open. Why you choose leverage shares over options on certain plays? Really, because of course, with the options you have, the great question that was actually asked, I want to get that question first. With options, you always have the time decay factor, right? Like time decay, of course, you do have the expense ratio factor, but the time decay, of course, with those options, and it depends on how low something is too, right? So like, for example, on Soxel or some of these other leverage ETFs, they drop very low. And so it makes it to where it's like, okay, why wouldn't I get the leverage shares, right? When I use things like ASMG and Eli, the piece about it is, of course, the cost of entry into a ASML or a LLY at $600-700 is just completely expensive. So there could be like different reasons as to why we would look at the leverage ETF. Whereas like NVO, someone might not necessarily need the 2x levered ETF, but it'd be good to have. A name like Coinbase and Conal, CONL. Coinbase is a $300 stock. It may not be as affordable, to just say, hey, I'm going to get into it. So I always say that like that's the main reason why I may suggest, even with like METU, the one for Meta. Meta was $500 company, but you could get METU for 22 and 23 bucks. METU goes to 50. You made money. AVX, same thing, was like what, 12, 13 bucks, and AVGO was like $140, and AVGX hit over $50. So that to me is really one, it could be the cost of the ticker, but then also two, it could be just extreme, in the extreme case of even UNHG, right? UNH, even at its lowest point, was still a $250 stock. It still cost you something. You can get UNHG for a fair price. So that is really, realistically my thoughts on that question there. So it was a really great question. And I'm glad that the question was really asked. And you do have to worry about the expense ratio, but you don't have to worry about the theta. as we know, some positions do take more time than others to really cook. It's just the reality. So that's my thoughts. C3 AI. Let's get AI. So this has been on a downgrade list. A lot of downgrades have came in over the past couple of months. Now with C3 AI, I have this diagonal trend line just drawn like this, just to show you how every time it's hit this point, we've kind of bounced. So to me, I think it's in a good spot to where now it's starting to reverse, but that's just a small technical piece, like not a major reversal. If you look at it, it hasn't really done anything in 3 years, for the most part. When it came in and IPO'd, it was part of the class of new IPOs that came in overvalued and then just really got dumped. If you look at the fundamentals on C3 AI, ticker AI here, look here on C3 AI, just go to the statistics for me. Just do that. This is a business less than 2 billion in market. Well, excuse me, right here around 2 billion in market cap. So you'll understand, yes, it has a low amount of outstanding shares, but the business is not really positive. So this is like the opposite of hims and hers. You got about 25% of the shares outstanding that are being shorted. Well, here's the thing. The shorts are actually making money from this one. So this is one of those where the shorts actually have it right. It should be shorted like this, right? It should be shorted like this. This is the way that it is, right? It should be shorted like it. So, yep. Next two tickers, let's do Upstart and Affirm. Don't want to forget these bad boys. So Upstart and Affirm, let's cover them. I want you guys to pull up Upstart and Affirm really quick. A lot of questions about Upstart and Affirm. So let's get those. Upstart right now is about $67 a share. Affirm is right there at about 92. So let's take a look at both tickers. So if you look at Affirm, we are here on Affirm, to me, on the path to breaking towards $100 a share. Upstart needs to really get above this $72 level, but also the major level that we need to watch Upstart at is back here, the peak point that we seen a couple weeks ago. It's right there at about $77. So these names, Upstart, Affirm, buy now, pay later, obviously with Affirm, and then as well, you have Upstart. Now, here's the situation. And just think about it from this perspective. What's getting ready to come in? Holiday season. Rates just went down, right? Interest rates will get cut again in October. What's getting ready to happen? Holiday season. We all know that people is going to be looking to go holiday shopping. Obviously, the Affirm option is available. Affirm's about to make a ton of money this next 6 months. Next 6 months is about to be money time for Affirm. So to me, this is a setup from a fundamental perspective. Obviously, there's some technical aspect, but this name fundamentally is sound. Now, I would say better sound than what they were 4 years ago about Affirm, in a better situation than what they were previously. Now, I want to talk about Upstart. As rates start to get cut with Upstart is one of those names that is also shorted as well. So as the stock price increases, there comes a level of short cover. It's sat here in a double bottom. So we have to see this neckline break here at 77. I think we see a rotation in Upstart and Affirm more. These are two stocks the next 6 months that I think can be on a run. So, yep, that's my thoughts on those. Upstart and Affirm. I want to actually give you another analysis, and I want to go to Walmart. So let me go to Walmart here. Walmart is not getting above 105. A lot of questions over the past week I've gotten about Walmart. It's not getting above 105. Walmart's not a highly volatile ticker, so you can't expect to be catching moves on this name just realistically. This is not a stock that we sit and say, okay, we're waiting on Walmart to just significantly break to the upside. That's just not what happens here with WMT. So Walmart, to me, stalled out here at 105. Not expecting really much move over it at this time. Break though, I think it'll go on a run. Speaking of value tickers, let's talk about CAT. How many people were able to catch Caterpillar? Caterpillar last week was one of our 5-star tickers. So on CAT, boy, broke CAT, AXP, Palantir, all three was our 5-star tickers. And after this, I'm going to get open for you guys. But I just want to let you guys know when it comes to open, a lot of the move has happened, right? So don't get drunk with that ticker. I think we've gotten majority of the move on that name. $13 to me is where I think price can go, but it would take more of a short squeeze. But I want to talk about CAT because it played out perfectly. This is what you talk about, a high probability setup. You know, a bull flag pattern, price was there, broke through 440, busted through that. And man, 466. Just like that, Caterpillar's on its path to $500 a share. Obviously, that won't happen this week. Earnings will be next month with the rest of the tickers and that'll report the last week of October. Caterpillar should be giving us their numbers. A lot. I mean, for you guys, I would say, you know, CAT's been at work. I mean, every time I go outside, I see Caterpillar. You know, especially in my areas, you know, here, Caterpillar's making a ton of money. This country is doing a ton of building right now, and you can't, and readjusting. You can't never go wrong with what's worked, you know. And Caterpillar, a long time, has been a consistent value name, and so they just continue to get rewarded. So Caterpillar to me is just gonna continue to print. Shout out to them for making a new all-time high, and they show why they deserve to be in a Dow and how high they are. So Caterpillar has done its thing. So just giving them their flowers, and we'll see what it is. They're obviously not on the, you know, a major break. They've had a major breakout this week already. So last week already. So that was pretty much it, you know, for them for now. I'm sure they'll probably trade sideways before taking any considerable move. One name that's caught my eye is ANET. ANET is just my thoughts on it. No trade necessarily recommended, but watch this 156 and also 141. Interested to see. ANET was up about $2 and change Friday, so it's had a nice move. It's made a nice move here. Another one of those stocks that's been on a run. So just no trade necessarily recommended on this. No trade on this. So yeah, that's that. Make sure you guys have shop down, Shopify, ladies and gentlemen. Now let me get Shopify. Make sure y'all have that. The Shopify position. Make sure y'all have that. But Microsoft closed above 515. So with MSFT, ladies and gentlemen, it's been moving here to this downside. It moved here to this downside since the peak out in July, but we're right here, looking like it's trying to break this structure. So it's actually right at resistance right now, funny enough. So with MSFT, it's sitting right here at a resistance level. And as we're hitting this level, it decides whether we're going to explode or not. It decides for us whether or not we're going to explode. So to me, we got to look to see it's above 525. That's that next resistance point after this level. But Microsoft looks like it's about to get Microsoft and Apple look like they both can run. Both can run. So Microsoft looks good. Looks like we might be going to 525. So 525 is where Microsoft looks as if it's going. It's right here at resistance, about to break this diagonal trend line. So it's a pretty bullish setup here on MSFT, guys. Pretty bullish. Remember, once again, 437 for Tesla. If Tesla don't break 437 this week, it's not doing nothing. If Tesla breaks that, it'll have a $20 day this week. It'll go to 455. It'll go to 455. If Tesla breaks 437, hear me again, 455 is where to go. Apple 250 is going to be the wall. 250 is going to be the wall level. And that's pretty much that, for everything. We're going to go ahead and wrap this Zoom up. Appreciate everybody for being on. I think the game's probably at halftime, so enjoy the rest of the game. If you're watching, if you're not, get some rest up. I'll stop this Zoom now and make sure that the recording comes in as soon as I get it. So I appreciate everybody's time for tonight. Thank you guys very much. That's really my thoughts on everything. As far as rubric, FTNT, I anticipate that both of those tickers go upward. Datadog, I see some of the tickers that I missed in here. I want to give you some commentary there. Those names, so rubric haven't changed on it. Ticker for rubric, we're looking good. Obviously, earnings pull back, but it just gives you opportunity to get it a little lower. But rubric, the thesis definitely didn't change. So yep, definitely the thesis did not change. So I definitely would watch this Zoom over. If I was you, I would watch this Zoom over and make sure you take copious notes on everything that I highlighted tonight, just to make sure that you caught everything. So a lot of things went over 2-3 times on a Zoom purposely, so you can kind of just catch it and play it back. So I appreciate y'all for your time. Once again, it was definitely good to see a lot of faces in person that you see on Zoom all the time. So we'll post this thing up as soon as we get it underneath the weekly watch list tab for the question that just came in. So you have a blessed rest of your night.